And then when you reach that top of the wave, extend your front foot as hard as possible through the whole motion. This is like probably the most interesting thing that I've learned through my surfing journey. Imagine if you're surfing and you just break up with your girlfriend that day.
You surf better or worse? That's the question. All right, everyone. Well, welcome to the Basis Podcast. We got my good buddy Richie from Okia Surf. I've actually been bumping into Richie apparently for multiple years, and we didn't even realize it. In El Salvador, you recognize me in El Salvador. In Zonte, and then Puerto Rico, and then that's actually how we met, right? Because I remember actually I had just surfed Tres Palmas. I had snapped my buddy's gun. And then we were talking about that.
Me.
We were talking about that. And you're like, I want to get into that too. And I was like, oh man, and then
it was one of my it's been one of my dreams riding bigger waves, and then I saw you and I was like, I want to go do that too, but I didn't have a buddy, and it's like it looked very heavy those days. It was we were lucky because we had a very special swell the time we were both in Puerto Rico.
Dude, I heard the locals talking and they were like, it's never been this good.
It's never been this
good.
I
was talking to Leif Engstrom. Well, I guess he's not local, but I mean, kind of,
he goes there all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like, it's never been this consistently good, and it's pretty crazy that I got lucky. And you spend the winter there all the time, so it's easy for you, but for me I was just like, wow. But anyway, sorry.
No, seriously, I think that we were blessed. It was a blessing to spend it there, and then we got the best waves possibly in Rincon.
Yeah,
for sure.
Super fun. No, but I remember actually surfing. I remember you from Hobos, actually, from up north. So
Hobos, yeah.
But anyway, so Richie is somebody I've been bumping into for a while now. We didn't even realize it, crossed paths. And then, but he's also a surf coach and has developed his own system called Okia Surfing. And I'm super interested to hear more about it, but thought we'd just kind of go in with the normal Basis podcast format, talk a little bit about Richie, and then get to know him a little bit. But then he also wanted to kind of walk through his a little bit more about his approach, which sounds very intriguing. It will be the first time I hear it, so I'm gonna probably have lots of questions for him. But it sounds very exciting. So why don't we start off kind of a little bit about your background, Richie, like where you're from, how you came up, where did you get into surfing, and all that. So where did it all start for you?
Thank you so much for that intro. It's an honor to be here talking with you, and this is what we love, and then it's our passion, and it's super rewarding to be doing this now. I didn't thought that I was gonna end up doing anything related to surfing because my upbringing was I went to college, I studied business, I am from Guatemala originally. And then in Guatemala, to be a surf coach is basically, to be it's something super weird and different to what everybody else is doing. And then, I started surfing when I was 17 years old. So very old. I'm 30, turning 32 now. So I'm on the third floor. Finally.
Third floor. Never heard of that. I like that.
I'm on the third floor, and then coming up, and then I started surfing, completely fell in love with it. You know how it is. Yeah. It's the most beautiful sport in the world. It's like the most amazing, and and as you get better, it's so rewarding. And then the better I get, the better I feel about myself. It's been like something that not only has bring me inspiration, but identity in my life. So and then how my dream, I started very late, but my dream immediately was I want to become a professional surfer. Immediately I was like, okay, everything else that I was doing in my life is to the side. I want to become a professional surfer. I want to earn my living surfing, competing, I want to shoot videos, everything.
And like Kelly Slater, I'm taking you down. You got a target on your back.
I was like I was like I knew that I was never gonna be that good, but I always thought of that if you really want something like with all, and then you work really hard towards it, you can achieve
Yeah.
anything you set your mind into. So that was like kind of like my mindset, and then everything changed along the way. Because like obviously surfing is like a very competitive and like
Yeah.
it's very tough sport, but along the way I found some really interesting things.
Mm.
You know, along the way of my learning, I found some really interesting things. Because I'm like the worst at learning sports.
Mm.
Basically, one of the things that I found out.
Mm.
That's the first thing that came into my mind. I'm not the gifted person that you see doing a backflip in high school, and then you're like, how did that
Right.
happen? You
Right.
know, like you see a kid like you see we all know that kid that like those backflips, front flips, you know, like plays soccer and they're amazing at
Yeah.
everything, you know, and then they have this type of intelligence which is motion like a motion type
Mm-hmm.
of intelligence where they just see something, they replicate, and then like I didn't have that type of intelligence. I'm more analytical,
Right.
to be honest. So I had to take a different approach to get better,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like to like the usual. I get to the beach, I see somebody surfing every single day, and that's how they got good. I think that, and then that's the basis of what I teach, is that you can see somebody that's been surfing for 20 years and then still doesn't surf really good.
Mm.
But you can see surf someone that surfs for 2 years and then they surf amazing, you
Mm.
know, and then they look insane. So it is not the amount of time you spend in the water. That's ultimately what I learned the hard way,
Mm.
but it is how you understand it
Mm.
what makes the big difference in the end,
I think that's
you know, and
very,
then
very
how.
interesting, and I want to come to that, but I actually before we because that's a super interesting topic, but I actually want to go back just a little bit and touch on something because
Yeah.
I think it's something that's very interesting about surfing is when you see a really good surfer, a lot of times, well, of course, you have an immediate amount of respect for them. But it's interesting because the best surfers aren't necessarily always going to be the best teachers. I mean, I found that with all of my
Exactly.
buddies that have grown up surfing and shred and do airs and all that. When I ask them, hey, how do you think about doing this or that? They're kind of like, uh, I don't know. I just do it. Like my mind goes blank and I just do it. And that's kind of how, because they learn at such a young age that it's totally intuitive to them. So they can't really break it down and explain it to somebody, you know? Whereas I think
Exactly.
somebody that
Exactly.
grew up, learned it at the age of 17, which is funny because that's considered late by like pro surfers, obviously. But like for the everyday surfer, that's still considered like, a young age,
Mhm.
depending on kind of where you're coming from,
Yeah,
right?
and like not.
And then
Mhm.
if you struggle with it and you have an analytical mind, it's interesting that it seems like that would actually be an asset, right? I think I was listening
Mhm.
to he's this guy named Faraz Zahabi. He's an MMA coach and he coaches like George St. Pierre, like some of the best, some of the
Mhm.
greats. And he talks about the best teachers
Yeah.
are people that are they know how to do it, but then they're also analytical. You need kind of both things to be a good teacher, and so that's interesting that that's your
Yeah.
background.
Yeah, no, you know, I completely agree with you. Actually, I prepared a presentation for this for this interview. I can share my screen, right?
Yeah, sure.
I can share my screen. So I'm gonna share in a little bit, but I exactly that's one of the big things that I want to talk about.
Mm,
So like I developed this thing called the learning cycle system, right? Because like exactly when you see when you're walking down the beach and you see somebody surfing and then they're really good, the first thing that it comes into your mind, you know, and then this is what I think it was a struggle for me to learn. You think immediately, oh, they must do it every single day, you know, and then that's everything that they do,
mm-hmm,
you know. But again, that theory is debunked by the other like fact that I stated before, which is like some people surf for 2 years and they're great, and then some people surf for 20 and they're not
yeah.
that good. Or like if you, for example, we all know this person that goes to the gym for 1 year, you know, and then like they look exactly the same at the end of the
Mm-hmm.
year, or this person that goes to the gym for 3 months and then like, for example, we all know all those Hollywood stars that they go 3 months and then that's it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
They like they look amazing. So there is a part about how the types of intelligence come into play, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, there's different types of intelligence. There's like motion
Mm-hmm.
intelligence, there's mathematical intelligence, there's emotional intelligence. For example, emotional intelligence is the ability to put yourself into someone else's shoes, right? And then like and then understand their feelings and then to be able to communicate in a better way. So there's people that don't come with that so
Yeah.
much, you know. And then there's people that comes with that emotional intelligence and then they see somebody doing a carve, for example, and then they're able to replicate without even understanding the process of how they
Right.
do it. So through my presentation, I have an interview of a professional surfer, a very well-known surfer, that talks about how they learn how to do airs like 14 years old, which is like considered late again,
Yeah.
by by their
Right.
standards. And then how they ask like one of the best surfers in the world how to do airs, and then like the only explanation was, well, you just go down the line and
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Exactly.
ramp off the section,
Exactly.
and then
Yep.
like they don't understand it so, like they don't understand the process of how it goes so well. But um there's an interesting thing that if one of those professional surfers that are like natural and then they learned it, I don't know, like in the, for example, in the 90s, where like surfing was more of a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's more of a sport. Now
Yeah.
before, you know, we know professional surfer. We see all those like movies from tour. I don't know if you've seen movies from tour where they, they're partying before the
Oh yeah.
contest.
Those
Like
were the days,
they,
apparently.
those are the days.
Yeah.
Now it's all like there's like sports psychologists. There's like
Yeah.
like there's a different type of preparation nowadays. But before, it was like uh it was more like just like raw talent. Now there's a lot of surfers that come up with like technical
Yeah.
preparation, and then a surfer with talent and technical preparation is a super powerful tool.
Right.
So now let me share my screen with
Yep.
you.
There should be
Let
a.
me see. I'm gonna share my
You see that
screen.
share button at the bottom?
um yeah, yeah. So here it just lets me, it doesn't let me share. Oh yeah, yeah, I have it right here. Do you see it?
Yep. I see it.
All right,
And
perfect. So this is
yeah, hold on. Let's. It's loading up, so maybe give it a second. Um,
I have to give it a second right here.
yeah, because I can't see the screen yet for some reason. Okay, there we go.
Do you see it?
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Well, I'm gonna explain just a tiny bit. Okia means shadow. Comes a little bit from what I think shadow boxing is. Where
Mm,
like before you entering the ring, you do, you practice outside of the ring the same motions that you're gonna do while you're in a fight, basically.
yeah,
You
I
know.
like that.
So surfing works a little bit in the same way. Again, like what Brad Gerlach developed called wave key. Where you practice outside of the water the movements. Now it's something that we see really common in the training that surfers do. With skate ramps, etc.
Yep.
And then like also just practicing on land skateboarding. There's like simulators. There's a lot of tools. So what is this learning cycle system that I've been talking about? Do you copy it?
Yep.
Do you
I
see
can see
the
it. Yeah,
image?
yeah.
So this is a method that I developed that just shortens the learning process for any surfer to very, very short, right? And then the first part of this process would be understanding the right technique. That's the very first part of the learning cycle system. And then, for example, what is the technique to do a carve, right? What is the weight distribution, for example, to do a carve, or what is the position on the arms to do a carve? But there's a difference in between somebody that explains to you, oh well, there's one arm that is gonna be reaching towards the water, to lean towards the water, And then there's one person that's going to show you, oh, this is the arm, you have to point it towards the water and open your chest up. So there's going to be as many explanations as their surf coaches, right?
Yep.
But the idea is that you understand what you're doing, and then you understand the purpose of the motion that you're doing, of every motion, of the weight distribution. When you do that, then it becomes very powerful too. When you understand why do you have to open your chest towards down the wave when you're doing a carve, then it becomes easier to repeat, right?
Yep.
That's the concept, to understand exactly what you're doing. And then like this process, it is outside of the water actually. That's the biggest
Yep.
thing. This is a process that we go through outside of the water. Why? Because learning inside of the water is an environment that is like you're trying not to drown, right? You're trying not to like you're trying not to like you like probably or you see you see a friend, you start like it's super distractive environment. So for example, when I teach like not only like competing surfers, but when I teach a beginner surfer, sometimes when you take them out for the first lesson and then when you teach them in the ocean, they're focusing on not like drowning or not dying,
Right.
and then they take concentration away. So in understanding the right technique, part of the learning cycle system is to be on an environment where you're more relaxed, not necessarily sitting down on the beach with the sun on you and everything. So for example, just like watching a video on YouTube on how to do something, or watching like a reel on Instagram. I found myself learning more on the reels on Instagram than actually from a surf coach on the beach, because I'm thinking I want to go surfing.
Right.
I don't want to receive a lesson while I'm like watching this beautiful sunset, but I want to,
Right.
I want to go engage with the
I
water.
think the other thing is just how many opportunities do you get to have the right section in front of you, right? Like, let's say the average
Exactly.
surfer catches whatever 3 waves an hour or 3 waves every half an hour, whatever it might be, and then how many of those waves you get the section to do the turn that you want, don't get dropped in on, all
Exactly.
these things, so like your reps are super low, and I think that's what makes surfing
They're
really
super
hard.
low.
Yeah.
Exactly. So surfing. So by the concept we spoke before, the okay. I don't know if you have heard about the 10,000 hour theory.
Yeah, for sure.
So the 10,000 hour theory, but I think it's Max Caldwell or something like that.
Yep.
The 10,000 hour theory states that if you do something for 10,000 hours, you're gonna become an expert at it. But surfing, it is the least 10,000 hour theory that you can imagine. Why? Because you can spend 8 hours on the ocean but catch 5 waves. That would be the case, for example, like Pipeline,
Right.
or be the case Tres Palmas. You could spend 8 hours on the ocean and just catch 8 waves, and then your riding time would be like 5 minutes in the day if you're really lucky on a good day, right?
Right.
5 minutes is a long time. It's like if you took a trip to El Salvador and you're like 5 minutes on top of the waves. So
Right.
yeah, 5 minutes, it will take forever to learn. It will take 45 years, to under to get really good at surfing. To get 10,000 hours, it will take you 45 years surfing every single day on El Salvador if you're only relying on learning when you're on the ocean. So understanding the technique, um, it is very important to do it on land, like in a relaxed environment, and then like use a resource that is giving you like the right information and that it makes sense for you.
Yep.
Then after, for example, after I show the surfer the right technique, what I do is like I show them someone performed that technique successfully, which is the process that we're gonna go through with the carve, right? So
Hmm.
this enhances the understanding. It's like, okay, this is what I'm showing you about this movement, and then we're breaking it down, whatever, and then I'm gonna show you like Kelly Slater doing it. Like, leave me out of this. I'm gonna show you the best surfer in the world applying this technique, or the best surfers in the world applying this technique. And again, there's something really interesting about technique, and every surfer, every best surfer in the world performs the same exact technique. Everybody uses the same technique. Now everybody has different style, but there's something really interesting about style, and is Style is an interpretation of technique, and
Yeah.
without technique, there's no style. So everybody does exactly the same on a wave with variation of how they move their hand, the body. Like, there's slight variations, but the foundation concepts are the same on every single
Right.
best surfer in the world or really good surfer. Then, wait, then what are now that you understand the movement and you saw it, now we're gonna use tools on land, right, to make the movement automatic, right? So if we're practicing a carve, we're gonna practice it as many times as possible on land. Or if you're practicing a pop up, let's go back to like the very beginner,
Yeah.
if we're practicing a pop up, we're talking about um, well, like doing the pop up 10 times, 20 times on the shore. So this is something that really upsets me sometimes when I see a beginner's lesson and then they only make them pop up 2 times, because that was the lesson that they received was on the shore.
Right.
It wasn't like, it wasn't on the ocean, but it was on the shore. Those 10 pop-ups, that is your surf lesson basically.
Yeah.
So using the tools to make the movements automatic. Now, trying the movement on the water and having someone taking video of you surfing while you try it. So now we're talking only about that one movement. Let's say we're talking about the carve. So we saw understanding the technique of the carve, watching somebody do the carve successfully, then practicing the carve on land, then trying the movement on the wave, and then having somebody taking video of you surfing. You have to use one concept that you're practicing on and then take it into the ocean, and then having someone filming you is one of the most important tools to learn how to surf. So you have someone uh, that is going to film you. So if you're not getting filmed while you surf, then you're not getting better, because it's so, like, unless you're one of those super intelligent aliens like Kelly Slater,
Yeah.
like that they move their body so well that the way they think, that's the way they move their body, then you're never gonna make that connection. But there's a specific connection in improving in sports, and there's a specific connection in between video analysis and then doing the movement repeatedly,
Yeah.
because like you start to connect something on your brain, you start to connect uh, you start to turn on those lights in your head, and then like suddenly you're gonna start, you see, oh, I move my arm in that way and that's how it looked. Oh, but now, like the second time I do it, I want to do it like this. So then you start to become more conscious. So video analysis makes us more conscious of our motion, and then connects our movements with our mind. It's a very powerful tool to see yourself. I remember the first time I saw myself on video, it was really painful.
Broke your
And
heart,
then
huh?
so
You're just
it
like,
it breaks
burn
my
it,
heart.
burn it. I never want to see
It
that again.
Exactly, it's so bad. I
Yeah.
was like, oh my God. And then like I remember I went through a phase in my life where I was like, I'm just want the pictures.
Yeah. I'm
Because like
like,
the picture is the one that looks, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want the picture because like you see the big drop, or you see this, or you see. I just want that picture because like
Right.
that's where it looks cool. But then I started when I went through a time that I was watching so many videos of myself to the point till the point it hurt, basically. And then that was about the time that I started to get better, you know.
Right.
But anyways, these learning cycles I connected it like later. But and then the last bit is to analyze the video on land, going back to the concepts. And then when you take one concept and then you go through this system, like you can go through this like system on a day, basically, where you like get a lesson about how to do a carve, and then you watch the video, then you practice on skateboard, then you go and then get filmed, and then you go back and film it. It takes less tries to learn movement in surfing in this way. This is what I've come to find,
Yeah. Makes sense.
in the end. And then if we use this approach to every single movement that we learn in surfing, it just takes way less time, than trying to figure it out on our own. So for example, now if I feel like I cannot do something, is because I don't understand it, or I haven't practiced it enough, or I haven't seen myself on video doing it enough. And then when I do, like connect this circle a couple times, then like I speed up my learning process.
For sure. Yeah, makes total sense.
Now, what I do mostly, because like there's so many different types of preparations in surfing, right? So there's physical preparation. Like physical preparation is gonna give a like a raw example. If Kelly Slater would eat a burger at McDonald's, like two burgers at McDonald's every single day for a month, he wouldn't be able to perform at the same level he does, at the end of the month.
Yeah.
You probably like grow a little belly, and then that same concept, the fitter we get, the better we're gonna perform. Now, the technical preparation is the part that I do the most.
Hmm.
Technical preparation is the like how to move your body, how to, for example, what is technical preparation? Weight distribution is technical preparation. Footwork is technical preparation. Where you know how to like move your foot all the way back to the kick, every time you do maneuvers. That is technical preparation. Or for a beginner surfer, for example, like when they stand up to put one foot in front of the other in the right angle, this is like an example I give about technical preparation. I tell beginners, so if you're gonna do snowboarding, and then I move the angle of your boots, for example, you know,
Hmm.
and then you think that you're gonna be able to snowboard down the hill with different angle of your boots. If I change the angle at night and you don't realize, and then you go down the slope, and then you're just gonna go for,
Hmm.
big crashes, basically big wipeouts.
Right, right.
Uh, so the same, like surfing is really technical in that way, even in high performance surfing, which is like, for example, how to do an air. I don't know if you heard on the competition surfing when they say, oh well, I'm gonna do an air, so like, or like the narrators, they're saying, oh, he's gonna do an air, so they're widening the stance,
Yeah,
on the surfboard. They widen the stance to do an air to have more surface area, and then
for
like,
sure. Yeah.
you know so that's very technical of the surfers. Also, when they're gonna do a rail turn, they do narrow their stance a little bit, to be able to use the board and the rail correctly.
Yeah.
So that's technical preparation. That just knowing that information can change your approach. Now, tactical preparation, it is like competition, like positioning on the ocean. Like,
Yeah.
you know, position is possession. If you're in the right place in the ocean, then you're gonna catch the wave. And psychological preparation, is, like where's your head that day, where you're competing, or where you're like, just surfing in general. Like, imagine if you're surfing and then you just break up with your girlfriend that day. It happened to me many times.
You
And
surf better or worse? That's the question.
I surf worse. No, no, no.
You're not
Or sometimes
raging. You're
better,
not like,
but
I'm gonna go charge some crazy tube and just
yeah,
like get the barrel of your life. No, no, you're just sad.
yeah, no, 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 yeah, no, no, no. The thing is, yeah,
I'm playing. I'm
sometimes it
playing.
can get you no, 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 it's true. It can get you that gladiator,
Yeah.
like mindset sometimes, and then like I'm sure that you've gone through that in your head. Have you ever gone through, like when you're like canalize your, whatever you're feeling, and then you're like, just I don't care if I get hurt today. I just want to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that we've all used, like, and then the same, if you're not feeling, if your mind's somewhere else, then you're not gonna be able to perform the same play. So I give like the people the example all the time, about this, how important it is. It is like, if John and Kelly are gonna go on a heat, but one of them break up with their girlfriends right before the heat, it's like an extreme example, but
Right.
they're not like, the other guy has a better chance, because like
Right. Right.
your head, you know
Of
and then they
course.
have sports psychologists
Yeah.
nowadays, not just because of that reason. You're gonna represent your country in the Olympics, and then just traveling all the way overseas, spending all that money getting there, and then like on your first heat you fall off your first wave, then you feel like you're going downhill, and then like you have to be strong in your head, and then there's drills to
Right.
improve that.
Of
but
course.
but what I wanted to share, with you today was like, the Carve. I just wanted to show these videos just to showcase one thing, basically. And then this is like, one of the bases of what I teach. This is, our surfers generating speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Different surfers using the speed generation pattern. So this is a lot of what I do. It's like sports biomechanics, surfing biomechanics. They're all using the same movement pattern,
Yeah.
using their like back arm to swim to generate speed. Um, Now, the first thing I learned, the first time that I learned about movement patterns was with these guys from Map Technica from Brazil.
Okay.
You know,
Mm.
the Brazilians. These guys are literally the best like coaches in the world. Like literally, I cannot talk better about them. They are like
Oh, I've never
Map
heard of them.
Technica is it is the deal. Like I've seen them coach Olympic athletes. I've seen them coach this guy from Tour, the Peruvian guy from Tour.
Are
What
they
was his
surf
name?
focused? Are they specifically surf, or are they
Yeah,
just general
sur-
athletes?
there's specifically surfing. There's specifically for surfing, and then these are the surf coaches that I've seen study the motions of their body like in the best way possible, and like, and then they came up with some concepts that I'm gonna share here that are like that I never heard of before, but it changed the way that I surf, and it's been able to help me like transmit my knowledge in the better way. And then I've seen results in all the people that I'm coaching and stuff in competition and everything. It's just insane. But the thing is to showcase in here, like there's a few frames to showcase how like surfers move in exact same way. you know this is Andy Aarons and Mick Fanning, right? And then like they have slightly variations in style again, but
Right.
uh,
Right.
again they're doing the same maneuver, which is the carve, which we're gonna study today.
Mm-hmm.
And then like they have some really key point elements in the turns that are really really part of the foundation of the sport also.
Yeah.
So again, this is, I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear this, because I'm sharing the screen, but this is a video I show like my students sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
which is consciousness is power. This is Nathan Florence talking about how to do airs and how he learned how to do airs. This is what I wanted to show you. I don't know if I play.
Yeah.
Are
Go
you
ahead.
able to
Why don't we
hear it?
just try it? Yeah. Just try it. If you can turn up
Do you
the
hear it?
volume, yeah. Maybe can you turn up the volume at all?
Yeah, I'm gonna turn it up all the way. Let's see if you can hear it.
I can't hear it. You know what?
You cannot hear it?
Yeah, I can't hear it.
Okay, perfect.
Here, you know what? I can't hear it. But maybe what you could do is you could send me the clip afterwards, and then we can replay it. Is what we'll do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
replay it and then we just cut that part out and then
Yeah.
we'll just
Yeah. Just
use
send me
it.
the
Yeah,
clip, and then we'll be able to do it. Cool.
yeah. But basically, he's speaking about how to do airs and then how he asked his brother, how like, can you explain me how to do an air? And then he was like, he learned so young that he wasn't conscious about what it is, not fully conscious about what he's doing. It's just natural to them,
Yeah. Exactly.
it is someone that it is natural, pure talent. And then like natural pure emotion intelligence, like, but like not necessarily you're gonna be the best at transmitting it. But one thing that I found when I discovered surfing biomechanics basically is that when you tell someone when you tell someone what they're doing, right? For example, if you explain like I saw it, witness it with Olympic surfers, you tell them the right technique, and then they become more conscious about what they're doing when they know exactly what they're doing. The
Yeah.
strongest aspects about the technique that they're performing, they become more consistent in doing that technique.
Right.
It means that they do less mistakes. Okay, so let me just, I don't know if I have to say that again because there was a little bit of sound.
No, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
It's fine. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So what is technical preparation? And now this is like the thing that I use most to explain people. Technical preparation aims to create improved sports skills. Technical preparation studies biomechanical rules and motion possibilities of the athlete. Specific adjustments of technique by an athlete is referred as style. So in here we see, for example, this guy throwing the baseball. We know all the baseball players throw the baseball in the same way, right? They use the same technique. They lift the leg. There's a process that they go through. Same as like sprint runners and stuff. They all start in the same position, right? So that is technical preparation. Surfing, it comes from a more, like a more hippie and like environment, right?
Right.
When we were talking about those like golden days with, like where people would just go get like super party before a contest and stuff, and then show up and like,
Right.
like still perform. Like now, surfing is the same way as other sports. The same technique. They still use the same technique. And then why is technical preparation so important? You know, like biomechanics basically. They accelerate learning, generate muscle memory, become aware of sports analysis. Now we see tennis player, right? If they're standing on the right side of the court, they're gonna be able to deflect the passes in the best way. Golf, like there's a way of holding the golf club, and then there's a way of like swinging that thing so you could like throw that thing as far as possible. Now, sports biomechanics is agile analysis of sports movements to minimize risk of injury and improve sports performance, right? So, how to move my body so I can move my surfboard better, right?
Yep. Yep.
Now the question is like, this is for the people. What are you doing? You're doing to prepare yourself technically, and then like, there's many ways people like unconsciously do this, and it's like watching videos, watching surf contests, watching movies and stuff. People try to copy what other surfers are doing, but trying copying it is really good, but trying to understand it just brings more power to the table. Now, we're gonna talk something that's really important in the carving motion. Now this is what I wanted to talk, and then we talked about this yesterday. We're gonna talk about carves, and then like we're gonna start this with a question for the public, whoever's watching. Where does the weight go when you surf? This is something that's like just so like fundamental in surfing.
Yeah.
Where is the weight goes when we surf? Because like remember in snowboarding, you have you. I'm sure you have tried snowboarding before. We know that the weight has to be forward all the time, right? You have to weigh forward in order to change rails, unless you're like on powder. Well, I've never had the chance to snowboard in powder actually, just on the blue hills, on the blue icy hills of the East Coast. And yeah, so where's the weight goes when we surf? This is like the question.
Yeah. Well, you know what I think is interesting is that this is even a discussion topic. I think, once you get to a certain level of surfing, you do know that it's really all about your feet. But
Exactly.
a lot of surf coaching, a lot of surf tips is like, oh, just look with your head or just open your
Yeah.
shoulders. Obviously, those are aspects, but that is not actually kind of what's actually going to drive you through your turn. Hey everyone, it's Van. Hopefully you've been enjoying the podcast. Hopefully you've been listening to some good stories, getting some good tips that are helping you improve as a surfer. If so, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review. It'll only take you literally a few seconds, and share it with your friends. That's the best way you can support me so I can continue to create awesome new content for you. So thanks.
Yeah, exactly. So like people tell you, oh, okay, so you have to like, like look back, go rebound the whitewater high, like there's a lot of biomechanical things that are correct out there, but what is a rule that should prevail through every single biomechanical pattern or every single movement in surfing? It's like, where's the weight go when we surf? Now, I do a balance test with people, right? Usually when we're like face to face, a balance test, which is like I get them to put their weight on the back foot, and then I push them, right? And then I get them to put the weight on the front foot. We see here Adriano de Souza, he has his weight on the front foot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then with his weight on the front foot, he's able to balance more through any imperfections, through any like through any single thing that's trying to get him off his feet, he has a better chance of withstanding it with weight over his front foot than with weight over his back foot. Now, with this balance test that I do with people, basically I push them around like in this posture, or I push them around with the weight on the back foot. We could see two things. With weight more forward, we get more balance, right? And then with weight forward, you're also gonna get more speed if you think about it,
Right.
right? So thinking about it, when you put all the weight on the front foot, then you accelerate your board. And then what does a surfer do when they're gonna stall for a barrel? When a surfer is gonna stall for a barrel, they just kick the tail, or they do
Right.
this, like, I don't know if you've seen that willy, where like you're gonna do like you're like traveling down the line, and then you do a willy, and then like
Yep.
you immediately break your brake, and then like you're able to get into the tube and stuff.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna see more examples. I want to talk about something that is like, for me, it took me a while to discover it. It took me a while to, like I learned it from this sports biomechanics in Brazil. I now apply it to everything that I teach. And then this is like, what is the big proof of the way being forward to turns? What is the biggest proof? And the biggest proof is the rail engagement, right? And I showed this picture of Andy Irons because like I want to show how much rail he has on the water right here. We can see it's almost all the way to the top of the nose, the rail. So this is like the biggest proof that the weight is forward, because from that simple test that we do when we're like surfing down the line and then we kick the tail to break, what happens? The whole board comes outside of the water, right? The whole board comes outside of the water, and then we break, and then we like basically stall because like we're using the tail of our board against the water. So that like, but when we're wading forward through the turn, then we're engaging the whole rail. Now, this is like I set up a Santa Claus thing because it was like like I did this presentation with some of my athletes, and it's like it was like a Christmas gift. So, so how much rail engagement? How much rail engagement? So this is really interesting. So we're gonna see some turns in here on the presentation, and then like let's see how much surfers use the rail in every single turn. Let's see, for example, here, Mick Fanny, you see how much of his rail he uses on the bottom turn. The whole rail is sunk.
Yep.
They're sinking the whole rail. So what happens when you're sinking the whole rail? What like with the what does the water do? What like what actually happens? It is that the board accelerates more, because you're not only over the edge, which is like over the rail, sorry, not only over the rail, but you have the whole rail on the water. Then the board's naturally gonna pivot more, and it's gonna like it is gonna come around way faster than if we're like stalling up the wave. So I'm gonna give you guys an example later down the road of like some surfers using weight distribution on the back, and then how much rail they're using for turns. But more rail engagement. To be a fantastic surfer means to sink all of your rail, not only 30% of it. The best surfers are the fastest and most powerful. Engaging your full weight in the water gives you more speed, balance, stability through turns. So, for example, when you're boxing, if you're boxing and then you have your weight on the back foot, and then somebody hits you on the face, then that immediately tips you back. You tip like you fall immediately. But if you have your weight on the front foot, then you have a better chance of like like holding yourself together while like you're getting pushed, basically. So more weight on the front foot equals more balance, more stability, more speed. Now, pushing with your front foot equals balance and stability. Now, this is like what I want to talk about in here. Like, now we're gonna try to see these like random surfers. I don't know who these people are. I have no idea. This is just a video that I like gathered from. I think it's yeah, somewhere in Puerto Rico. But now let's see the turns from these surfers, right? We're gonna just analyze the turns, and then we're gonna see one simple aspect of all of these turns, and it's rail engagement. Okay. Now we're gonna like we're gonna see how much rail like is on the water at every single turn. So for example, we're gonna see this guy, this little guy right here, and then like through this turn, how much rail? What if you could get a percentage from 0 to 100? How much rail do you think is engaged in here?
Well, you can see not very much at all.
It is like 30% of
Yeah.
the rail. So basically, you can tell where his weight distribution is because of how much rail he engaged through the turn, and then you can also tell that he's breaking through the carve, because he has the weight on the back foot through the carve. He's stalling, right? He's stalling right here. He's like the same stalling motion to barrel, you know, and then we can see that the weight is on the back foot. He's like breaking through the turn. And then listen, an instinctive thing to do. And why? This is like again like 30% of the rail, 20% of the rail he's surfing, and then like you can see like there's not much spray, like he's breaking through the turn, and then it is instinctive to put the weight on the back foot because it's our strongest foot, right? That's our strongest foot is the back foot. Or like so like we're gonna naturally want to push with it, you know. And then you know what's funny? When you're surfing a really good wave, it feels like you're going really fast, even though you're breaking through the turn, So
Right.
it feels amazing, and it feels comfortable. But when you see the video, you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't that much spray, and that was like, like not. It looked like I was going slower than I thought, you know. And then that's something that happened to me, and like I was like, okay, like, and then when I understood it, like it just makes such a big difference in my surfing. But these are the effects of having the weight on the back foot through any turn: less spray and less rail engagement, digging rail, like putting the weight on the back foot. Again, the surfboard is not designed for waiting on the back foot. And then free turns, getting stuck on the lip also is another effect. Imagine you're gonna go hit the lip and then you hit the brakes as soon as you hit the lip. Um, Imagine like it's the same as on a racetrack, a car on a racetrack. You're on the race, and then you're gonna go hit the turn with your Ferrari, Corvette, or whatever, and then you
Mm.
hit the brakes midway through the turn. Then you're not gonna drive through it, but you're just gonna stop. And then like sometimes that means that you're exiting the wave, and then getting stuck on top of the wave is another effect of like having the weight on the back foot. Surfing slow and without flow, that's another effect. Now, we're going to talk about something that is very interesting. Very, very interesting. This is like probably the most interesting thing that I've learned through my surfing journey. And it's like the way forward spray versus the way backward spray, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to see this guy spray driving off the back foot. And then this is the way forward spray. Now, spray comes always in two auras. There's two like big sets of spray every time that you do a good turn. So we see a small aura, which is the back foot weight, and then this is the big aura, which is the front foot weight, right? So we can actually, from the spray that goes through and outside of your rail, you can tell how much weight you're applying in your turn and where. So in here, I can tell because there's just one aura in the surfing to my right. I can see
Mm.
that the hole is back-footed. The turn is completely back-footed. There's no engagement on the rail, and then there's no acceleration for the turn. And then also this guy, I can tell is fully back-footed. Now this guy to the left, I think is Andy Irons, and I can see how much rail engagement he had at the end of the turn. And then also you can see the whole rail is sunk on the water right here at the end of the turn.
Right.
And then you can see the back foot right here, like the follow through spray. Now front foot spray versus back foot spray, and then like
That's so
again,
interesting. I've never
you
thought
see,
about that. Mm.
this is something that is very new in the surfing world. I learned this again from this Map Technica in Brazil. I am also a coach from Map Technica, and then this is something that literally changed the way that I teach and then the way that I understood surfing. We're gonna watch videos, and then we're gonna watch how the spray comes off the rail of the surfers. We can tell how much weight a surfer applies to his front foot by how the spray comes off his rail. So let's see, for example, wait, let's see, for example, here, Jordy Smith, and then again, you see the two auras right there. Red one, back foot
Mm-hmm.
spray, and then green one, front foot spray. All right, and let's go for the next turn. So there was a lot of front foot right there. Again, front foot, back foot. Perfect. Now again, there's so much pressure on the front foot on the top turn. It's like not
Hmm.
much pressure on the back foot. Now again, front foot spray, back foot spray. Now, even professional surfers sometimes they don't have the time to kick on the top of the wave with the front foot, and then they end up doing a back foot wave, a back footed turn. You know, let's see Julian Wilson right here, and then this one didn't had so much. You know, like it didn't had so much spray of the top. It was like thin release. It didn't had so much spray of the top, but you can see that there was not so much front foot weight on that one, right? It wasn't
Hmm.
as powerful as the other turn he did, or the Jordy Smith's like turn that he was doing.
But it also
Now,
looks like he's hitting a different, you know, the section that
it
he's
is
hitting was a little
it
different,
is
but
it is a little bit of a softer section also,
yeah.
but you know this is something that is really new, and again, um, surfers mostly like 99% of the surfers in the world are gonna tell you that the weight goes on the back foot, you know. And then like it is something that has changed like the approach of teaching a little bit, because like it is very like I know that it's a very hard concept to grasp, but like the idea of this like little like session that we're doing, it is like to be able to demonstrate it, you know,
Hmm.
like to
Yeah.
demonstrate what the weight distribution is. Because if you like, let's say if you knew exactly where to weight on the top of the wave, it means by weight I mean kick. You know, if you're gonna kick with the back foot or you kick with the front foot, if you know exactly where and how to do it, you would like always do it right. You know, so that is a really important aspect of surfing performance, knowing how to weight on the bottom turn, on the top turn. Now, the weight distribution central concept is that the weight will always try to go back, but we must force it forward to surf powerfully and with flow, right? And then these are, for example, these are the three cases where the surfer weights on the back foot. The first is to avoid nose diving. You see how the wave the board does a wheelie,
Yeah.
and then this one to do an air, and then
Yeah.
the last one to stall for a barrel. Those are the three situations where the weight goes on the back foot.
Hmm.
Um,
That's very interesting. Yeah. Okay. I mean, my understanding of surfing and the way I've learned it is it's about mixing and shifting the weight between the back foot and the front foot. You
in the
know.
front foot. Yeah, I mean, there's like the weight is always wanting to go on the back, because like you're standing up on your two legs, but the idea is to, for example, if you finish a bottom turn, sometimes the weight's gonna go, like it is gonna go 50-50, and then if you want to, like, the idea is to know where to weight forward really strongly to engage that rail, you know,
Yeah.
and then like to come out with more speed,
Interesting.
and
Yeah. I
then.
mean, I've been practicing with Wave Key, and in Wave
Mhm,
Key, what they focus on is, without giving it away, because that's not mine to give, because it's Brad Gerlach's,
mhm,
right? But it's about
mhm.
knowing when to apply pressure to the back foot, or
To the back
knowing when
foot,
to apply pressure to the front
to the
foot,
front
and
foot.
and
Yeah,
it's that dance between the back foot and the front foot, the dance between the heel and the toe.
yeah,
That's how you generate the power. But it's very interesting though what the way you're approaching it is. It is opening and turning on some light bulbs for me, thinking about that weight distribution. Because you're right. Well,
mhm,
it's interesting though when you talk about back foot versus front foot. I almost feel like it seems like there's like two camps of like people. Some people think it is just the front foot. Especially, let's say that you're surfing mostly bigger boards. Let's say you're surfing a fish.
mhm, yeah,
I think a lot of people get sucked into just like focusing on the front foot because
Mm,
they're just pumping, pumping, pumping. And then once you get
mm,
to a certain level, you end up being like, all right, now I know, okay, I do need to turn the board off the back foot. But maybe you get stuck
mm,
too far and you're just like only back footed surfer. And then here you're
mm.
like trying to find the right balance, it sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, like there's always all sort of situations, and then there's situations where you're gonna have to wait on the back foot heavily, like at the end of a turn, for example, when you're trying to avoid nose diving, like when you're
Yeah.
like hitting a really critical sections, you need to sit on the back foot at the end of the turn.
Right.
But like this is a very new concept, and then I have found myself the thing is that like whenever I discovered this, I found um I exited like I just like it opened my mind to something different because like I've
Hmm.
always heard like and even from very very big coaches in California I remember like through my job at Pudo Surf I always heard weight on the back foot is the strongest foot.
Yeah.
And then when I started to use my front foot, because like I just, you know what, I'm just gonna give it a go. I thought
Yeah.
about it. I was like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna give it a go today. I'm just gonna do this like different weight distribution on the wave. And then like when I saw how fast I was going, I was like, oh my God, this is like it's so
Hmm.
different, you know.
Hmm.
And then like
Interesting.
we're gonna like we're gonna see how, for example, this weight is applied through a carve where like I was able to understand it, and then I was like, okay, this is what actually flicks a board around the whole way through, and then this is what actually accelerates. So when we see this motion, this is the leg extension carve. So for example, when we see this motion, we see two things. We see Mick Fanning has his straight leg on the front, and then the back foot is bent, right?
Yep.
Right. But we see the whole rail engaged. So we could think two things. We could think he is like using his back foot to pivot around, you know, or we could think he is straining his front leg and then pushing off his front leg through the whole turn. That's the two like
That's so
the ways that
interesting.
I
Yeah.
can that I could think I could decompose it. So what I would think about is like this is the right way of creating drive and force through a carving motion. Doing this leg extension at the beginning of the carving engages your core rail and makes the board whip around fast. So the reason why I know that the weight's on the front foot in here is because of the rail engagement. That's the reason why I know that the weight's on the front foot. And then by rail engagement, I mean here he starts to pressure off his front foot extending that front leg or a front leg extension. He, and then look how much of the rail in here I keep skipping. Wait. Look how much of the rail he engages through turns. Let's see another again. This is I think this is a re-entry. Oh no, this is a carve again. Again, extension of the front leg. Look how much of the rail, at least above the front foot, the water's fully engaged the whole rail of the board, and then that's how he's able to whip it all the way around because the board turns faster when the whole rail is engaged.
Hmm.
You see the whole rail right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. That's interesting. Well,
So
yeah. Okay.
yeah,
Continue.
so for example, like right here, we can see Mick Fanning has that like biomechanical pattern that every time that he's gonna do a turn, he extends that front leg. Every time that he's gonna do a turn frontside or he extends that front leg on the carves. Let's see. Oh, here we have a really clear example. And here at the end, he does a little cutback, but he extends that front leg right here really strongly. You see,
Yeah.
really really strongly and drives off that front leg. Another indicator that the weight is forward. In here, it is. Oh wait. It is the position of the hips. So you see that his hips are a little bit tilt forward. So if you try to do this on the floor and then your hips are on the back, the weight is going to go up on the back foot. But if your hips are on the front and then you have that front leg straight, then the weight's on the front foot. And then that's how he's able to generate speed through these like tiny sections. And you see like you see probably the same amount of spray that we saw of that other guy on that big wave at Puerto Rico applying weight on the back foot.
But here's the
But
question though:
mhm,
if you look at that initial starting position with the leg straight at the top of the wave,
in here,
right? By straightening that leg, you're actually and you look at the position of the hips, right? That actually implies here that you've actually pushed the weight onto the back foot, right? Because your entire center of mass is actually over that back foot, and the back foot is compressed, right? So wouldn't the weight be on the back foot there, on the back foot heel? And
the
then that's also driving the fins, which is going to cause the board to pivot.
the thing is that like I, for example, think if you see like Mick Fanning's foot right here, in this case right here, so this is exactly the beginning of the carve, and then you see his front foot
Yep.
extension,
Yep.
right? And then if you see this part, you see that his front foot is almost getting dug on the water.
Yeah.
So because of that real engagement, you're able to tell, you're able to tell what like what weight distribution he has. If the
Mm.
water is above his front foot, that means that he's pressuring with his front foot. And then
Yeah.
if the water is like if the water is from the back foot below, that means that it is back foot pressure. So imagine, think about it. Obviously, when you exit a bottom turn, your weight's gonna go more so like 50-50 right here. Like
Yeah.
there's not really any weight like intent in this part of the way. There's no any intent right here,
Right.
right? And then when you get to the top, also you 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 push with the front foot, and if you were pushing with the back foot, making the change from back foot to front foot would be extremely difficult, because you have that front leg straight. So like from to go from back foot to front foot through the carve would be really really hard, because like you'd be back foot, and then you're like from here, for example, from here it'd be extremely difficult to have the weight on the back foot, and then you already have your leg straight to intend to straight your leg. But the motion is just to push with the front foot really hard until you dig the entire rail, and then forget completely about the back foot, and then
Hmm.
naturally your body is going to go into this position,
Interesting. Right.
where like the back foot seems bent, but it's an illusion. That's the thing, and that's why it's so super hard, because
Hmm.
like most of the surfers think that they're back footed, but they're front footed actually, and then that's like and then I used to think that whenever I did a great turn, it was because I kicked really hard on the back foot, but actually I was doing a front footed turn.
Hmm.
So let's see a little bit more of this. For example, Andy Aaron's the same. We're gonna see the leg extension, and then one of the clearest signs of this leg extension, it is like another thing that we're gonna go see through here. Now, look at his like heel right here. You see how
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
his toes are like, this is Andy Aaron's right here, and then like his
Yeah.
toes are outside of, like, they're lifted up a little bit, which means
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
whole pressure is on his heels. The whole pressure is in his heels. So the thing is that to get to the top of the wave, um, get to the top of the wave 45, right? 45-degree angle entry. And then when you reach that top of the wave, to extend your front foot as hard as possible while you're
Hmm.
looking back. And then you do everything the same. You look back, you open your hands, you do everything the same. But the difference is that you're gonna kick with that front foot. You're gonna extend that front leg and then leave it extended through the whole motion. Extend
That's
your front leg to the
super
point.
interesting. I mean, I always knew that you do want to straighten the front foot, but I've never thought about it like you're going to push with your front foot as hard as you can. I've never thought about it like that. That's a very, I mean, the thing is, I feel like what you're telling me is pretty counterintuitive. I mean, biomechanically, I
Hmm.
see what you're saying.
Hmm.
In my head, though, there's still a little bit of, I'm still, not completely convinced, but
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
almost like, but now it makes me want to go surf and be like, all right, I'm going to try to really push with that front foot and see what happens.
You know
Huh.
what happens? you know what happens? I had exactly the same reaction when I heard this from the first time. I learned it from someone else. I have not discovered this myself, but I've learned it from the guys, these Brazilian coaches. You know that this guy that studied biomechanics. You see him, he is literally a mad scientist. And I was like it took me like 20 minutes or more to just like start like being like, okay, I gave up on him. And the moment that he told me that, I gave up on him completely. I was like, okay, what am I doing in this seminar right now? You know, and um, and
Yeah.
then like
Because
when
how do
I
you explain then? Okay, sorry, continue.
mhm.
I'm going to ask questions.
So
Keep going.
I gave up on it completely. I was like, whatever, this dude is like explaining me about weight distribution forward, whatever. But I came to find that this for me, it is the biggest secret in surfing. It is the biggest secret, and it hasn't been revealed yet. It hasn't been revealed to the major public yet, and it is maybe the reason why so many people get stuck. You know, and then
Hmm.
because the professional surfers also say, okay, the weight's on the back foot. Okay, everybody else deal with it. Okay, but how do you do an air? I don't know. Like just go fly off the section, but the weight's on the back foot. So we're believing people that learn from that era, of like,
Right, right.
like they didn't even like they just watched surf films and they were incredibly talented. And
Yeah.
then like that knowledge has been passed on and passed on. But then like um when I started to apply this, I was able, like this is very proudly, I was able to teach surfers that were stuck, we couldn't even like do much on a wave, and then like I've trained surfers that have gone through that to winning competition in 1 year,
Hmm.
and then like winning a competition frontside doing carves, and then like also like finalist and stuff, and then like yeah, it's changed the way that like it changed the way that I teach completely. And and then there's others, for example, the bottom turns, all these techniques have specific ways on how to way forward to engage the whole rail. um,
Hmm.
but yeah, the whole point is to extend your front leg through the whole motion and then try to keep the whole pressure applied in the front foot through the motion.
So here's a question, and that was actually going to be my question, right? Because when you finish the turn, typically your front leg is now bent,
Yeah.
right? You drive, so then
So
that makes less sense to me than you starting the weight, you starting the turn with your weight on your back foot with your back foot bent and then extending with that back foot as you come around. And I think
yeah.
that's where we actually found each other because you
Yeah.
commented on something I posted about and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, plot shift, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. No, so this is a very interesting subject for me because, like, it is very interesting. I've come into many debates with it, and then again, for example, this is what you were saying at the end of this turn, and the irons is flex over his front foot, and then his back foot extended. What happened? So at the end of the turn, this is what happened. He compressed over his front knee instead of pushing with his back foot, right? So that's why he's bent over his front knee and his back foot extended, because he compressed over his front foot at the end, and then but he didn't extend it. He just followed through with the front foot, and at the end compressed over his front foot, but his back foot extended. So it is a big plot twist, right? It is a big plot twist because like it's something that it's obviously really hard to understand because like it's also our weakest leg, like the front leg, like usually it's our weakest leg, but it is the reason why like some very few surfers are able to progress like above certain level because like of exactly this conceptualization. And then if people are surfing well and then they don't know, it's just because sometimes it's very hard to be aware of or motions. It's very hard to be aware for like professional surfers of exactly what they're doing. So it like we just came with the most like you know to the easy eye,
Because
that's how it looks.
when I study, because that's what I do for fun is I like
Hmm.
study surfers.
Hmm.
I see them pushing with that back foot though. Like sometimes you'll see it pop. Like
Yeah.
I've even studied like Ethan Ewing,
Ethan Ewan, yeah.
and on some of the waves, Not on his best waves, they're just continuous and fluid.
Hmm.
But on some of the waves, I'll literally see him push with the back foot, and you'll see his track pad disengage from his back foot and like bounce off. So it
Oh,
seems like they're still
yeah.
pushing with that back foot, you know?
Yeah, yeah. We're like let's talk about those fin releases. We're gonna talk about those fin releases in a second. But for example, look at this. This is like a surfer that is a very good friend of mine from Panama. Is training the same
Mm-hmm.
techniques, and then he's focusing on this. Like I was with him, on this time of his life. So I'm focused. I know that he's focusing on that front foot weight, and driving on that front foot. This is what he was training. He's like currently the best surfer in Panama and one of the best in Central America. Is like Latin American
Mm.
champion. And then like he's focusing on that front leg extension on the carve. This is like this simple detail. And then like to be able to see him perform it, and then like now he was one surfer that thought, okay, like I have my weight on the back foot, but now that he's aware of this weight on the front foot, he's able to push harder, perform, like at a higher level, because like he knows exactly what he's doing. So he's able to repeat it even more and be more conscious, push harder. He has incredible benefits to even a surfer at this level, you know.
Hmm.
Then I have like these are some of the kids that like I've been teaching, and then like these are some of the kids after the training of like it's training that front leg. Well, she couldn't extend it properly here all the way through,
Mm-hmm.
but like we're gonna see on another turn now like extended like fully, and then she's only focusing solely on that.
Yep.
Now this is another surfer. This is a competitor of the ISA. I remember I taught her this technique in El Salvador, but she competes for Puerto Rico in the ISA, and then now she's focusing on that front leg. And then like every time that she extends that front leg, she gets that extra like twist and push. This is
Hmm.
another surfer that I've trained, also ISA competitor, like same front leg extension, and then like the turn being more powerful, focusing only on the extension of the front foot. This is a
Hmm.
this
It's so
is
weird.
this is yeah,
Well, here's a count. I mean, I agree that it's a very interesting concept to focus on the straight leg on the front,
yeah,
but it's going to be a balance of both, right? Because what if you just did straight leg front leg and straight leg back leg? You're not going anywhere, right? You're not going to turn the board. So it's
it
like
is.
a balance between the two, right?
Yeah, it is actually. So this is the entire concept. The concept is like this: the weight's always gonna want to go on the back. The weight is natural. We're naturally like, and the way we stand up one foot in front of the other, the weight always wants to go on the back. But we must force it forward as much as possible. And then if it goes back a little bit, it didn't go as much if we were trying to like push only with the back foot. You know what I mean? If you're focused on doing a carve and then going to push really hard with the back foot on the top of the wave, you know, then you would be stalling. You'll be stalling the board. You'll be breaking. You'll be
Mm.
disengaging the rail. You could lose balance also and then fall or dig your rail. But if you go and then apply the pressure on the front foot, at some point the weight's gonna go on the back foot, right before it, like then
Yeah.
naturally, not without thinking about it.
Hmm.
So this is something fun because like it's something that maybe you do it already, but just try it and then see how it feels, because like
Yeah.
this is where like for example this is another surfer applying that front leg extension, and then now I'm gonna talk about something. This is the last thing that I wanted to mention about this subject. And this is just an aspect of the carve, the weight distribution of the carve, which is like that front leg extension,
Right.
right? But I wanted to take a look at some professional surfers boards, right? These are very new boards. This is Julian and John. You see it, right? So now,
Yep.
do you see the dents on the front foot right here?
Yep. Of course.
You see, so this is a new board. When they finish, professional surfers, when they finish with their boards, you're gonna notice one thing. The biggest trait of a really really good surfer is that the front of their board is destroyed, basically destroyed. Like I have come in like I remember I found one of Benji Weatherly's boards on Puerto Rico recently. I used it for a workshop, and then the front part of the board was so badly like treated that like I was like, oh my God, like this is like a really big sign of weight on the front foot. And again, we can see John's board right here doing air, and then I want you to look at that heel side part of his like board. This is the part where he does the carves, and then judging by how wide the board is, we can see that this is like very brand new. Like probably it probably has
Yeah, yeah.
like a month old board, and it has already like the biggest dents you can imagine. So this is another indicator of how you know how this like pressure is applied on the front foot, you know, and and yeah, if you
It'd
like,
be interesting to do to look at Mason Hose boards because he doesn't use a trackpad and be like what is the
yeah,
difference in the pressures to the back foot versus the front foot.
yeah,
But I mean, for sure, you're going to be putting a lot of weight on your back foot, right? Like if you're just generating speed, you're landing in air, your weight's going to be generally over your front foot to land that, and then
yeah,
you're going to have a lot of weight. But that's interesting.
yeah.
It's a
It's
super interesting concept, though. Well, it is a very interesting thing. I'm going to have to test it out. So yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah,
how do you? So I'm assuming you have systems to practice, thinking about front foot and all that,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I guess that's all part of your program, huh?
Yeah, so for example, if you saw the learning cycle system, then you had a very big peak of my program, of what I do with an athlete. So, like, for example, when I like, before teaching an athlete, are you still seeing my screen? Like, I work on several.
Um, it
Let me
looks like
see.
it's
Oh, it's like frozen. Um, Let me see here. So like a lot of what I do is I work with conceptual like foundation conceptual concepts, like full work, weight distribution, biomechanics, and then
hmm hmm
I basically use the learning cycle. I use it to teach it. Everything that I teach, I do it through the learning cycle. So like before, for example, if we were gonna have a training session, what I would do is try to demonstrate to you as much as possible how, for example, a concept of weight distribution goes, right? And then like we would go and watch as many surfers as possible. For example, if you wanted to check on Mason Hole, right? And then go and watch Mason Ho's films, and then if you find like try to focus on his front leg and solely on his front leg during frontside surfing, and then try to spot on those weight distribution forward. I'm sure you're gonna see him like with very strong leg extensions, and and then that's what I do to demonstrate, like and then after demonstration and I take into practice and then I do those, for example, the other video that I show you from Oli, the surfer from Panama practicing on the carver, where like whenever they're gonna go through a carve to extend that front leg completely until it's straight and then like put all that pressure on that front leg to drive through the carve. Again, I've seen these concepts being applied on Olympic athletes, on WSL athletes, and then they all like, they all love it, and then think that becoming more conscious of their movements are gonna make them really really good. So it is like yeah, it is the learning cycle, weight
It's
distribution. Like it's very interesting. It like for
yeah, it
me.
sounds very interesting. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. And
Yeah.
how do you? So if people are interested, how do they work with you? What is the process like? How do you work with them?
So yeah, so like right now like I'm coaching
Is it
some
typically like coaching, one-on-one coaching, or is it like you? I mean, because I remember when I saw you in Puerto Rico, you were coaching all those
kids.
up and coming Groms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's
Yeah.
your typical?
My
How do people
typical
work with you?
so like how do I work with people? Like it depends. My whole focus right now is like I'm opening a surf school here in England, and then like having a different approach to how to teach the very beginners. Because like if you think about it, 98% of the surfers in the world are not, like like of a certain level. They're like starting to surf, beginners or found or like very novice
Yeah.
surfers. It's like 98% of surfers in the world. So if I was like, that's my whole focus, to create a system to teach beginners how to surf really fast through the learning cycle, different type of lesson,
Mm.
or everything like inland basically. It's an inland
Yeah.
80
Yeah.
80% on land, 20% of the ocean kind of thing.
Right.
But I do train athletes, and what I do is like I work a lot, like classroom like environment stuff, because like it like listen, if I was just gonna like tell people to go surfing, I film them, then like it's only so much that I can do if I'm filming from the beach, or if I'm like watching you from behind on a wave. Like the whole work is
Yeah.
like teaching them concepts, and then like it's fun to see them like, oh my god, I never knew I do this. So for like when I work with athletes, I do not work like when they're really good surfers, I do not work to teach them something. I work to teach them what they're doing so they can repeat it. I like go through the things
Right.
that they're doing right, and okay, so right here, this is why your car was really good, and then make you conscious of the weight distribution, make you conscious of your foot positioning, make you conscious of your posture, the spot
Hmm.
on the wave. So when they're conscious of that right technique, then they are able to like repeat it. But a lot of my work is like on land, which is what we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's like,
Or I mean, though, so like if people are interested, should they reach out to you? So can they sign up for one of your surf camps, like when you're in Puerto Rico, or do
yeah,
you do
yeah.
like
I
one-on-one tutoring, like video analysis kind of stuff? Like how to is
So
it?
how do I do it? It's like like I have a system where I through the winter months, I do retreats. I've done it in El
Okay.
Salvador. I've done it in Puerto Rico. Like now this year I'm gonna do Portugal and Salvador again in November. And I have a retreats for athletes. With these Brazilian coaches from Map Technica, and then I have partnered with a guy from like SAS Global Travel. It's like it is a retreat company. And it's like to teach
Mm-hmm.
like these professional kids. So like I've been training people from the NSSA, and like like kids that are really committed to it's really fun to work with like tiny, you know, little like
Yeah.
stock groms and stuff. And then
Yeah.
through retreats and stuff. Basically, they're all gonna be displayed on my website, okiasurfing.com.
Okay.
And yeah, like this is a very weird subject. I'm sure that like I took you a little bit by surprise, but I want like, yeah, it's like it's
Well,
very fun.
I'm gonna have to try and focus. I'm really gonna try to experiment with that. That's gonna be very interesting. Yeah, but thank you. This was super counterintuitive, interesting. I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense, but it's also still a little weird.
But
But
this is the way
I'm
to try
excited to
it.
try it.
This is the way to try it. If you really want to try it,
Uh,
like this
yeah.
is like the way is like basically before the session, then you have to go into this mental state of like, this is the only thing that I'm gonna focus on, right? This is like the
Right.
only thing. I'm like, it doesn't even matter if like it doesn't nothing else matters, like, but the only thing that I'm gonna try is like, and then you have to narrow your option. I just want to extend my leg on the carve, and then apply my whole pressure
Hmm.
there. And then like when you do that,
Hmm.
then it's better if you're filmed. When you're in El Salvador, that's
Right.
perfect spot, because like there's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
nice cameramans. Like I always get
Right.
so
Right.
much
Right.
content when I get there. I haven't get a
Yeah.
surf video of
Okay.
myself in so long.
Yeah, you've been grinding. You've been working hard.
Yeah,
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for joining again. This
thank you,
was super
brother.
interesting.
Yeah,
I'll make sure, obviously, to tag you so people can find you and everything. But yeah, let's keep in
oh
touch. I
wow,
mean,
we
we
went.
might have to do one of
Yeah,
these again.
oh my god, I am very honored, and like we did 1 hour and a half, so oh my god, I get too
Some good
inspired.
stuff in here, though. Hey everyone, it's Van. Hopefully you've been enjoying the podcast. Hopefully you've been listening to some good stories, getting some good tips that are helping you improve as a surfer. If so, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave us a review. It'll only take you literally a few seconds, and share it with your friends. That's the best way you can support me so I can continue to create awesome new content for you. So thanks.